We think of our reasoning as a series of deliberate, objective judgments, a mental environment where the evaluation of evidence happens free from outside interference. But human neurology is a product of evolution, not engineering. Our brains carry hardware vulnerabilities, cognitive biases that prioritize emotional comfort and social survival over the cold application of facts. Aristotle attempted to build a defense against these instincts by establishing the first formal code of logic. He created a set of categorical rules designed to isolate flawed premises before they could take root in an argument. During the Enlightenment, mathematicians like Gottlob Frege attempted to refine this even further. They sought to translate logic into a pure mathematical language, removing the ambiguity of human speech to reach a state of formal certainty. That mathematical model worked for equations, but Ludwig Wittgenstein realized it failed to account for how people actually speak. He observed that human communication functions through language games, messy, social activities where the meaning of a word depends entirely on its context. This context is where logic becomes hackable. A logical fallacy is a targeted error in reasoning that exploits the gaps in our language to bypass our critical thinking and trigger a pre-programmed emotional response. Mastering these rules provides a diagnostic framework to recognize when an argument is being structurally compromised to influence your beliefs. These hijacks often begin with what philosopher Douglas Walton calls a dialogue shift. A manipulator will covertly change the rules of an exchange, moving a conversation meant for rational deliberation into a highly emotional quarrel where logic is easily overwhelmed. This diagram illustrates the Nirvana fallacy, a tactic used by the tobacco industry to delay government regulation. By demanding 100% scientific certainty, they convinced the public to reject highly effective health policies because of a fractional, unavoidable margin of uncertainty. Modern climate change deniers adopted this exact architecture, using fake experts and cherry-picked data to manufacture doubt. They keep the public locked in debate, while atmospheric carbon levels reach the highest points in recorded human history. In the justice system, these errors can be devastating. The prosecutor's fallacy is a statistical error where mathematical probability is conflated with a defendant's likelihood of innocence, often resulting in the conviction of the wrongly accused. In the 1968 case, People v. Collins, the prosecution relied on unverified probabilistic assumptions to secure a robbery conviction. The California Supreme Court eventually overturned the verdict, explicitly citing the misuse of mathematical logic as the reason for the reversal. These logic failures act as predatory mechanisms that erode public health initiatives and dismantle individual legal rights. The impact of these fallacies is visible in Singapore's domestic policy landscape, where rapid digitalization has created a concentrated environment for public discourse and its subsequent manipulation. During the debate over legalizing casino gaming, some proponents used a fallacy of composition. They argued that because a casino gaming floor occupied only a small percentage of the resort's physical space, its societal and psychological influence would be equally marginal. Similarly, the repeal of Section 377A triggered arguments based on the slippery slope fallacy. This animation shows the error. Proponents of the law presented a mechanical cascade towards societal collapse as a certainty, without providing the empirical data needed to connect the initial legal change to that final outcome. Populist disinformation often bypasses logical substance entirely, using strawman arguments to create easily defeated versions of opposing policies that stir tribalism and fear. Lawmakers introduced the Protection from Online Falsehoods and Manipulation Act as a response to this trend. They argue that because modern disinformation relies on bypassing logic to exploit emotional biases, legislative intervention is required to maintain the integrity of public debate. Defending against these tactics requires a diagnostic tool that works in the real world. The Toulmin model of argumentation provides a way to deconstruct any claim into its functional parts. This diagram shows the anatomy of a sound argument. The central support is the warrant, the logical bridge explaining why raw data justifies the claim. Manipulators often provide data and a claim but omit the warrant, leaving a gap they expect your biases to fill. However, identifying a flaw doesn't mean you've won. The fallacy is the error of assuming that because an argument is poorly constructed, the conclusion itself must be false. The most rigorous defense is Steelmanning, reconstructing an opponent's position into its absolute strongest, most coherent version before engaging with it. By repairing the surface defects of an argument you disagree with, you ensure that the goal of the exchange is to identify objective reality, rather than winning a rhetorical game. If you want to fortify your own reasoning against the tactics designed to manipulate your beliefs, hit subscribe and join us in the pursuit